Hey there. Today I want to talk to you a little bit more about something we hit on in the must-see neurology video about a week or two ago. I mentioned it for a minute or two in the video, talking about heart rate variability and the other scans we're going to be implementing in the office. I was pretty excited and pretty passionate specifically about the heart rate variability. I think it's just such a cool thing to be able to objectively kind of see where you're at when it comes in regards to your health and wellness, specifically your nervous system wellness, which again we know controls everything. So let me just explain heart rate variability a little bit more to you, and hopefully you open the last email and you have the link in there to an article. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, go back to the last email. There's a link in there. And maybe I'll include it in this one as well. Just a real simple read on what heart rate variability is and what it has to do with our overall stress levels and how that plays into our health and well-being. So essentially, one might think that if I have 60 beats per minute in my heart rate, and that if there's 1 second on average in between each beat, that's a great thing. Well, actually, science has shown that that's not a great thing, because what controls our heart beating is our nervous system. Specifically, we talked about the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So sympathetic is their fight or flight mechanism. Parasympathetic is our rest and digest. So based on all of the input that we're bombarded with day in and day out, all day long, every day, the lights in the room, the fan that's blowing on me right over there, just everything that we're sensing affects our nervous system. And how the autonomics determine whether my heart rate should speed up for that fight or flight mechanism, or whether it should slow down and activating the parasympathetics. And there should be a constant fluctuation between those two things. Your body is constantly, your brain telling your heart to constantly adapt and change based on the input that it's getting. So I hope that makes sense. So what we should see when we take the heart rate variability is if you're resting in a nice quiet state and we're taking your heart rate and we're looking at the time between each beat, we should see a constant variance in that. Okay, so if between beat 1 and beat 2, let's say is 1 second flat. The next one we hope to see is 1.1 second. The next one we hope is 0.8 seconds. The next one 0.6. The next one 1.3. There's a constant flux in that number. And so that tells us if your nervous system is adapting to your environment, telling your heart to beat properly, up and down, right? So if that's not happening, we know that you're not adapting well to your surroundings. Your body's in a state of high amounts of stress. And oftentimes that leads to exhaustion. And when you're exhausted, it just doesn't function as well. Okay, and if you're under exhaustion for too long, it actually becomes weakened. Your nervous system and your response becomes weakened. And so I'm not the most tech savvy person, if you know me. I'm gonna hold this up really close to the phone just so you can see in our office when we take the heart rate variability scan, we plot it on this little graph that's really just a nice detailed way to look at where you are and where you should be. Again, the studies that were done on this just took thousands of people, and they plotted everyone based on what their health was like, and they came up with, let me just show it to you, this little chart. Okay, the green box at the top is where you want to be. Essentially, that would be where you have good balance between your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, which you look at the bottom, you kind of blurry, but you can read, is the x-axis of this graph. What we want to be is right in the middle where you see that vertical black line going up and down. Okay, you want to be on that line. You want to have a good balance between the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Okay, now the y-axis over here is what they label as autonomic activity. The way I like to explain that is basically this is like a battery pack, a battery charger. So if you're high, you're going to be in the green. If you're low, you're going to be in the red, meaning you're about ready to croak. Your battery is almost zapped. Okay, so we want to be high on the y-axis. So if those 2 points intersect where that white square is, a healthy person, healthy nervous system is going to be within that green box, okay? Essentially, you're going to score 80 out of 100 at least on each one of those axes based on heart rate variability. So again, based on science, based on literature, we know this. Now you see on this example, this person's little white box is right on the border of what we call the uptight and the distressed nervous system. So based on the data, based on the numbers, and let me go over that now that you've seen that long enough, what kind of people we see in each one of those zones. So again, on these zones, zone 1 was that upper left. It's called the uptight category. That's someone we often see who, for example, may work out a lot. Maybe it's an athlete, and we see that they're overtraining their system. So they may have a lot of, maybe they're young and they're healthy and they have a lot of reserve energy, but they're just overtraining their systems. So you're too highly over in that sympathetic side, always stressed, always taxing your body. Okay, if you go down to this bottom left, which we see probably the majority of people, is going to be the distressed nervous system. So you look at the shift is to the left, which is sympathetic dominance. So again, high stress, high adrenaline, always on the go, emotional, mental, chemical, and physical stresses are just kind of bombarding them, and you can't really adapt to it as well as you want to. So you're stuck and shifted over in that sympathetic mode. Okay, someone down in that lower left is also, they're starting to deplete their reserve energy. So that's why they go down on that y-axis in the bottom left corner. So if you don't have enough reserve energy, your body's just not able to adapt and recover and repair like it wants to. Okay, on the upper right hand side, we see it's labeled as exhausted. What that's meaning is the shift is actually more towards the parasympathetic side. You have enough reserves, but your body is just exhausted. Maybe what we see oftentimes here is you've been in the sympathetic, the fight or the flight mode, high stress for so long, your body has started to start to weaken a little bit and shift you over into that exhausted, always tired, maybe adrenal fatigue type of state, okay? And then the last one is this lower right corner, which is labeled on this as the weakened sector or zone. Okay, what types of people we see in that? Honestly, that's probably the area you least want to be. Usually someone has a lot going on, okay, in all three categories, the physical, the emotional, and the chemical. A lot of health issues, for example, a lot of autoimmune, just a lot of stuff going on that their nervous system, based on heart rate variability, we know is just in a weakened, really exhausted and weakened state. So what happens then is you literally physically, you cannot adapt well, you cannot recover well, you cannot repair well. So any little muscle ache, pain, joint pain, stress that you occur is going to drop you down and make you sick, make you susceptible like you've never been before. So the goal with this, again, is, okay, that's great, that's fine, we have this data, we know where I am, I'm this little white box on the left here. What do we do with that? Well, the conversation then goes to, what do you need to change in your life outside of our office? Of course, that has a lot to do with it. But inside of our office, we know that we can help you with this. Okay, we can start to make these changes and these shifts based on what we do here. So the goal is always getting you towards that center line and then up towards that green box to make sure that you're just a well-balanced, well-functioning machine that is able to adapt and handle the stressors that life throws at you. So I hope this was informative. It's a pretty simple, elementary way to explain heart rate variability. It's a cool science that some of you watching this, I know, have already been exploring this with me. And I would encourage all of you who are watching to get this done. Just get a hold of me, scott@synergylincoln.com, or call the office, and we can get you started on this. We can see where you're at now. And then the key is to reevaluate you in the future, obviously. So we can see, are you trending in the right direction, or are you trending in the wrong direction? And then based on that, we can discuss and talk about what you need to do. What are the next steps to getting you functioning and feeling at your best like you've never felt before? So give me a DM, shoot me an email, scott@synergylincoln.com, and I hope you enjoyed this. Pass it along to friends and family. Everybody needs to hear this stuff. So take care till next time.